Well, welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, where we love to bring you key insights, key leaders about the aviation insurance industry. And one of my favorite things to do is to bring on some of the key leaders from aviation insurance companies. And so today's guest is one of those people. So today I'm really excited to bring on the President and Chief Operating Officer of Old Republic Aerospace, Gary Churchill. So Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad to be on. I'm a longtime listener, so really excited to have the opportunity to talk with you today.
Absolutely, and we're glad to get you. We know you have a busy schedule, so we thank you for your time. So obviously, everyone loves to hear about how you came from getting into the industry and to where you're at today. So just tell our audience a little about your high level journey of getting into the industry to becoming to your senior position today.
Oh, sure. Well, it's, like most folks that do what we do, we were interested in aviation from the time we were kids. And, it started with reading the book about the Wright brothers when I was in grade school, probably. And, I got my written out of the way for the FAA when I was still in high school. And then shortly thereafter, earned my private pilot license in a Cessna 150. Went on to Western Michigan University and completed their aviation program. Most people my age probably point to the movie Top Gun as their inspiration. For me, not so much. It was kind of the movie Airplane that was more relevant to me. I thought it was a little bit more joking around and having fun, but it turns out there's a lot of math and science that goes into this. So, I was able to get that done at Western Michigan. When I graduated, the environment for pilots was pretty tough. There weren't a lot of jobs out there. So I had a friend who worked at USAIG, and he recommended that I apply. I did. I left Michigan and drove out to Minneapolis, Minnesota in my 1992 Ford Escort.
Nice.
With every single thing I owned in the car. I think it was one trip and done move. And, so started out there and got the career going. It's if in thinking about, the career and how you get from A to B, it really comes down to a couple of things. You've got to stay curious. You've got to be interested in what you do. You have to jump in and help and be a volunteer. There were so many times, whether it's been here or at other places or in different roles, where a new opportunity would come up, and I just found myself stepping forward and going, sure, I can do that. And you jump in and you figure it out, and you work with a team, and you learn a lot along the way. So I would tell anyone to stay curious and don't be afraid to jump in. Even if you don't think you know every single thing about it or you're the utmost expert, you'll learn it, you'll figure it out, and give yourself a chance to do new things. And it's also something that has kept the passion alive for what we do. Taking a genuine interest in things, having a passion, it means a lot. It means a lot to the people that you work for, and it means a lot to the people that you work with. If you're really interested in what you're trying to do, if you want to make things better, if you want to, just dive in and get your hands dirty with the work, you'll find that you get a lot of support from your employer, from your coworkers, and really everyone else. The next thing I would say is that you have to have good mentors. You have to have supportive people around you. And for me, it was a lot of times, coworkers, brokers that I would work with that were senior to me in the industry. And I have probably 100 stories of leaving a meeting with a pretty senior broker that would take me aside as a junior underwriter and say, maybe next time we do it this way, Gary. And you learn from all those things, and you adapt. This job is full of on the job training, and just having folks that that have kind of looked out for you along the way really means a lot. And so I do try to remember that and try to do the same for folks that work with us. Lastly, and that's also, it goes into how we operate here at Old Republic Aerospace. We have a rule that we have to apply consideration and understanding to every situation before we make a decision, whether it's with a broker, whether it's a client, or a coworker. If you apply that standard of consideration and understanding first, you're going to get a better result. Also, I think it's been important for me personally to be a generalist in my interest, but a specialist in my profession. So I take every chance I can to try to build out that professional development by reading things, learning new things. I've spent a lot of time with sales, negotiation, leadership, lean manufacturing. For some reason, I like economics. Clearly from a non-professional standpoint, but just as an of interest topic. And you find you can apply those things to what you do. So being a generalist in your interest, but a specialist in your profession, I think has worked pretty well for me. And it's helped keep that passion for what we do alive. I hope that answers the question, but it's kind of how it's worked for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you have to apply yourself and have that learning mindset, and not just about your specialty, but to go from underwriter through your journey up the ranks. I think through Travelers and into Old Republic, you have to become a leader. You have to learn on your own. You can't wait for everyone else to tell you. And I can't think of better advice. I think it's John Maxwell said, readers are leaders and leaders are readers. And I know some people are watching, more YouTube videos and things, but I think, just having seen your journey, I'm not shocked, that you've applied all that learning. And I think it's just some of the best advice, someone coming up in the industry, is to apply that. So now, as we're recording this now, we're in the early parts of 2026. And so, one of my favorite questions, is always what's exciting you most in the aviation insurance industry right now. And so obviously that lens applies to, our first quarter early on in 2026. But what is that is exciting you right now as we speak?
Well, first of all, if this job's exciting, you're doing it wrong. But the Mosaic rules coming online is definitely something that I think is going to be great for the industry. It could be the most transformative thing we've seen in general aviation for a long time. We have a big opportunity to get more aircraft into production. Most of the fleet is 45 years old, and that's a problem. So having the Mosaic rules available that allow manufacturers to bring innovative new products to the market in a faster, more efficient fashion, without some of that lead time expense that they might have to go through in order to bring a new aircraft online through certification processes, I think is going to be a big deal for us. And just having those units out there available, could be very beneficial to the industry. It's not, we do a good job of maintaining these machines, but there is a limit at some point, and we do need to bring new makes and models into the world. I think it'll be a good thing for manufacturers. The pilot side matters just as much, and Mosaic helps us out there as well. And it's again, we have about a average age of around 45 to 47. Pilot numbers in the U.S. are down, even though new pilot starts are slightly up, which is a good thing. But the overall the overall population is diminished. Somebody said to me a while ago, they said kids don't necessarily find flying an airplane interesting or appealing anymore. They would rather game or do something like that. But I think that, with the Mosaic rules and, without the high cost or maybe some of the intense regulatory pressure of getting a pilot's license, if you can get them in the airplane, get them in something that looks modern and new that they want to fly, you could see more people wanting to go out to the airport and start flying again. So I'm excited about that. I think we have a real opportunity there to get that light sport idea just right and get folks out to the airport, get manufacturers building new aircraft. I think that'll be a good thing. The next thing I'm interested in and excited about is the talent coming into the industry right now from the aviation insurance side. I go down to the branch side of our offices here in Kennesaw, and the energy is high. The group is excited. They're collaborative by nature. They're incredibly fast learners. Technology is not something they just use. It's part of their lives. So introducing anything new from a technology standpoint is incredibly easy here. The folks just get it right away. Their ability to absorb new information, I think, is probably better than our generation. It's just so quick that it's refreshing and it's fun to just watch that level of energy. And there's a lot of new brokers that we're working with all the time too. So there's new folks coming into the industry that have some ideas about how things should go. And I think our job is to listen to them and learn from that and take all the good. So we want all the good and none of the bad when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's that's exciting for me to see the new folks come into the business. We firmly believe that the fundamentals matter, and relationships are, those are the fundamentals. The relationships you can have AI, you can have automation, you can have data, but if you don't have a relationship with your clients or with your brokers, that doesn't matter. I think that folks would rather deal with people that they like, and that's why we staff and train the way we do here at Old Republic. But I'm excited about that, to see just the new life coming into the industry.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that in the culture of your organization, and of course you and I don't want to date it because it's getting close to 2 decades ago, served on the Aviation Insurance Board together, and of course I still teach the core principles of aviation insurance, and your organization always has several new people in there investing in their learning, and so you get kind of both of that with our association. You get relationships on our side of the business, the non-client facing, and then education. So I always appreciated your support, and you guys have your own internal broker education and obviously underwriter education programs, and so that's one of the values I always really appreciate about you and Old Republic as well. So a lot of good, a lot of exciting things. On the other flip side, the other side of the coin, what are some of your biggest concerns or some of the obstacles facing us as an industry, or for insurance companies as it may be?
Right. So yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's a little bit tricky to do what we do, and I don't know if that's always fully understood, um, by our clients or our brokers. It's running an insurance company is a challenge, and to get that just right takes a lot of folks. So you know, it, we have we have a great team here, and I rely on the team quite a lot. You know, to fill in the blanks or places I'm just not good at or can't do. So first of all, you face challenges by using a team of trusted folks that have a lot of experience. But at the core of the challenges for our industry right now is that we're not very good when the numbers get really large and the risks get really complex. And I touched on this a bit when I spoke at the AIA, but as the numbers get larger, our precision tends to go down. And if you look at two quotes, take a Cessna 172 quote, that will very rarely end in two zeros. It's extremely precise number. But if you look at a massive fleet or a large complex account, a lot of times those premiums will end in three zeros. To me, right away, that's an indicator that we've lost precision. So it's when you have low frequency and high severity events, it is incredibly easy to underestimate the magnitude of the severity events, and it's hard to price for them. So I think that's the largest concern I have with the industry right now. That being able to reserve properly for large losses is tricky. When you can have a nuclear verdict or some other kind of unexpected change in your ability to reserve. This is bore out by some data. I looked up some numbers before our call to be prepared. I didn't know the question, but I knew I'd probably have to get some data for you at some point. So we have U.S. general aviation market has grown significantly since 2023, with written premium at $2.9 billion, up 7% year over year, and nearly 84% higher than 2018. However, that growth is slowing, and incurred losses are heavily influenced by severity spikes and major claims. So, you get a large increase in premiums over the last 5 years, and you feel like that should be about right. But have you properly accounted for inflation? Have you properly accounted for loss cost increases that come from, repair costs, supply chain issues, composite aircraft, all the things that we have to build into the models over time. So that's a concern in the industry. And if I look at AM Best reports, the resultant combined ratio for competitors doesn't necessarily track with the increases we've seen in premiums. So that's a concern.
Yeah, and right now, and I know we can only just talk at a high level, right? We don't get into insurance company specifics, but we know as an industry, right, in certain classes of the business, and more in the GA, airline is its own animal, right? But there's additional capacity in a lot of areas of the market, so there's increased competition for a lot of business, which means generally lowering premiums. But I think statistically, and obviously the actual numbers are still rolling in, but there were some pretty significant losses, both on the airline and general aviation side last year. And so obviously, as rates have flattened as an industry and, the continued cost of claims, going up, it becomes a challenge because eventually, it all comes to a head. And this is that cycle we get into in our market.
Right.
So, in the current environment, in general terms, what needs to happen for the market to stabilize while getting the rates, stable, sustainable, I would say, for, insurance companies.
Yeah. So, market stability is an interesting topic. It's sometimes it has to do with external factors as much as it does, even internally at any one company or our industry. But market stability really comes down to disciplined underwriting and delivering value. If we as a market can be, disciplined, clever underwriters and deliver value to our clients and our brokers, then that will aid stability. Last year we did see several losses, but we also have to manage expenses too. So the U.S. business sector in general has, since the 1990s, has become incredibly efficient and productive, with like a 94% productivity gain. Whether it's making chips or cars or whatever it might be. But the insurance industry's expense ratios haven't changed that much since the 1970s. So with all the technology, you'd think that you would really see these expense ratios come down, but we haven't seen that yet. So you have to manage expenses to have stability. Um, the the other bit is distribution strategies. I think that we'll see companies partnering more closely with a distribution model and brokers that value that sell value, that sell stability, that sell quality over price. And I had a broker friend tell me not too many years ago that it's really all about distribution. If you don't understand your distribution, you're going to have a problem. So we try to spend a lot of time just looking at our distribution and what our partners are doing and try to stand in their shoes. Being a broker is incredibly hard. So I always remind our underwriters that we have the easier end of the phone conversation. We're dealing with a professional that's in the business all the time. Our brokers are selling to pilots and folks that don't deal with insurance every day. So that's probably a harder conversation. So we try to stand in your shoes a little bit and think about how it works. We like to think about what's in our control and manage that. So global capital flows, inflation, catastrophic events, some of that's outside of our control. But what we can do is we can deliver value and try to manage our risk selection, our appetite, our limit management. So that's, in my view, that's how we play a part in bringing stability. Just be good at our jobs. If somebody else looks at what I do and they think, wow, that's easy, and I could easily do that better, then we're going to invite competition. But if we deliver an amazing amount of value, people might look at it and say, well, our time's better spent doing something else. They've already got this figured out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a never-ending cycle, isn't it? And it's ongoing. So it's like you said, it's difficult because it's measuring a lot of factors and still trying to keep an industry healthy. Clients' needs met, and pay the bills. I mean, at the end of the day, insurance companies, you have to maintain reserves, you have to have profit, and so responsibility ultimately, is very important. Well, we have a lot going on, obviously, technologically. You hit on it. Relationships always important, but we're seeing technology improvements in the cockpits. We're seeing people use AI. How do you foresee these latest technologies changing how aviation insurance policies are underwritten? In today and in the near future.
Yeah, it's really the topic of the day, isn't it? It's you can't have a podcast without talking about artificial intelligence and
Yep.
things like that. So, um, you know, yeah, I think technology is a great thing. It's there to amplify our talents, not to replace them. Um, we don't we don't have any thoughts that it's going to be something that takes the place of an underwriter or broker in any meaningful way anytime soon. Um, you see announcements and things are easy to announce, but sometimes the actual change is delivered more like something that evolves than happens all at once. So we're mindful of it. We do see that uh, technology can be a real advantage for underwriters, and it frees them up to do the things that they like to do, like be engaged with clients and sales and negotiation and things like that. Telematics is something that I think the fleets and the clients will use to just gain better insight into how the aircraft is operated. Um, I often get asked how will that affect insurance, and what I usually say is the market will respond. As you deliver better results operationally, the markets will respond, and um, so I think overall it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's exciting, and obviously there's an integration and a timeline of where it makes it from the airlines to corporate to GA, non-corporate and that type of thing. But a lot of exciting things that will hopefully improve safety, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's a win for everybody involved. And I just want to touch quickly. We've got this new these new aircraft, so to speak, in our market, the advanced air mobility movement of these electronic vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. They're obviously many of them are still in production test, and not all of them are out in the wild yet, just a handful. But how do you see the insurability challenges and opportunities affecting that portion of the market as it continues to evolve?
Right. So I'm not an expert in this area, but I do see what's going on out there, and we believe that this is a good thing for the industry, and we welcome the business. We welcome the opportunity to write policies for these folks that are coming up with these new machines that can do wonderful things. So, the aviation market has always met the aviation insurance market has always met the aircraft manufacturers and operators, with risk transfer solutions. And we've always risen to the occasion. And I'm sure this will be no different. So what we do here at Old Republic Aerospace is we have, a knowledge base that's an inch wide and a mile deep in aerospace. It's all we do. So what we'll do is we'll stay close to the manufacturers. We'll talk to the brokerage community, see what the needs are for these operations. I was looking up, how many of these are out there actively operating and how many manufacturers, and it's still a relatively small number. So getting truly engaged with them at this point is not overly difficult or burdensome for us. There's not so many that we can't keep track or understand what they're doing or learn about their machines or understand the pitfalls that they might have. But in the end, we will meet them with a product that delivers what they need, which is to manage their risk and transfer that risk.
Absolutely. Well, more of the exciting technology, and that's been the exciting thing. What you said is very true. The aviation insurance industry continues to step up, to meet the emerging technologies that come from back to 1911. We first started doing it to 747s and adding capacities and hull values to space to experimental aircraft and UAS drone type of operations.
I remember we were all very concerned, Tim, with VLJs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, these things are gonna darken the skies. There's going to be so many of them, and the industry has evolved, and we've absorbed that into what we do, and we understand it now. And the pilot training and the manufacturers have come a long way with the way they engage with their customers. And the aviation insurance industry has been right there to provide a product that's needed. So I'm proud of that. It's not easy to do. It takes a little bit of learning and education, but we're up for that challenge. We welcome new customers all the time. We want people to fly airplanes. We like that.
Absolutely. Well, that's some amazing insight. So I just respecting our time here today, is there any questions I should have asked you but I didn't, or do you just have any closing thoughts for our audience?
No, I mean it's been a great time talking to you, Tim, and we went way longer than I thought we would. But I would just say, we remain optimistic for the future here at Old Republic, and we're excited about things that are happening in the aviation space and in the insurance space. And I appreciate the time, and thanks for having me on the podcast, and I hope it continues to go well for you.
I appreciate that. It's always good to talk to you, and always appreciate your insight. For those who aren't actively in the business, Gary, like some of our key leaders has asked to, share keynotes for the Aviation Insurance Association. So he holds much respect. And so that's why, I'm honored that he would give his time today to come on the podcast and share some of his insights about our industry and of course, great stuff. So, thank you, Gary. Appreciate your time. Always appreciate your insight and continued partnership in the industry.
Thanks, Tim.
Well, that's all for this episode. Join us again next time as we continue navigating the waypoints in aviation insurance. Until then, enjoy clear skies and unlimited visibility.